السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. إخوة الكرام, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to carry on from where we stopped. Now, where we combined the previous juz and also the one before that, we said that they work together in harmony. أليس كذلك? And especially when you look at the juz number 26 and juz number 27, especially juz number 26, you notice that Allah focuses on the strength that He gave Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَالْقُوَّةُ تُعَمِّرُ وَلَيْسَ وَلَا تُدَمِّرُ. Power and strength, every single time, what does it do? It builds. But power does not destroy, it does not ruin, nor does it take away. Majority of us, when we look at power and we look at especially people that have positions today, especially if you look at politicians, you notice that the next thing you might see or you might experience from them is that they use their strength to strong arm someone. Whereas that's not the purpose of power. The purpose of power is like a teacher that has knowledge and is willing to see the student growing and becoming better. That is strength. That's why you notice when it comes to knowledge, knowledge has its own strength. And you notice at the same time, it has the ability to raise and to raise a nation from where it is, from the rubble, and it takes it to the heavens. That's what it does. And through knowledge, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has lifted us. And majority of what you see, for example, Allah, when He talks about in the previous juz in regards to selfishness before juz 26, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He talk about? He speaks about specifically that the people that follow their desires because of lack of knowledge. And some, they follow their desires, whereas they already have knowledge, but spiritually their hearts are not nurtured and they are not connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which means that the best of all knowledge that one can have, rather than becoming a jurist or becoming a qari or whatever it might be, but spiritual knowledge is the ultimate goal that each one of us should aim for. And once we receive that knowledge and you tie it together with the knowledge of other aspects of our deen, you notice that it's a superpower of its own. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the heart, spiritual knowledge deals with the heart, with the soul, and it guides it and it shows its path, which way to take, and it does not allow it to deviate. And the moment that it wants to deviate, it's always held and it's returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, when you look at this current juz that we have, after talking about juz number 26, noticing that Allah is talking about the power of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we mainly now in Surah juz number 27, you notice that Allah does not just talk about the strength which He gave Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but far and beyond, now He talks about His own strength, which is going to connect us to the following juz that we have. And in Surah Al-Rahman, every time Allah says, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاء, and by which signs, رَبِّكُمَا, of your Lord, of among these signs that you see, تُكَذِّبَانِ, which you are going to be denying of, and every time you're going to be rejectful of them. Why are you going to reject the signs of your Lord, whereas we have already made them manifest in front of you? But you notice when Allah uses this usloob or this methodology, is for one purpose, or two purposes. Number one is Allah to show us His might and His strength. But look at the creation of the universe and look at the creation of mankind. Allah only gives, He does not take. But when people reach to a level where now they do not just acknowledge, they don't just not acknowledge Allah, but far and beyond, they show Allah that even though we can acknowledge you, but you're not deserving, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the examples of whom? The non-believers, and also gives us the examples of the people of Hud, the people of Thamud, and each one of them, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with them. But if you come to this following juz, the one that we have now, how can you tie the previous juz with this one? In the previous juz, we said that as Allah starts, He talks about how to educate someone when it comes to the religion of Islam. Basically, teach them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and call them upon the message of Islam itself. But if you look at this following juz that we have a surah known as Surah Al-Hashr. Now, Ibn Abbas says that even Mujahid, he narrates that Ibn Abbas used to call it, don't call it Surah Al-Hashr, but call it Surah Bani Nadir. It's the surah of Banu Nadir. Now, who are Banu Nadir? Banu Nadir was a Jewish tribe that existed in Medina at a time when Medina was in the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, long story short, what they wanted to do, they wanted to murder Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as you know, the Israelites before, who they claimed to be a part of them, they murdered prophets, not only one or two perhaps, but they did this act, and this heinous act they wanted to do it again upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, there are two narrations. One of them might be said to be a little bit weak, and there is another one that is regarded to be the most authentic. And that which is a little bit weak, it literally manifests how they wanted to do away with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whereas while Rasulullah was in their hands, and he came as a sole man, like he came with a purpose, and he doesn't really need an entourage of army that would safeguard him. That's not what it's all about. And if a leader is a truthful leader, a leader would not require people that will safeguard them. Although it's necessary for a leader to have that, but as you know, Umar ibn Khattab, he was found to be under a tree sleeping, and he's resting until they said, Adalt wa ansaft ya Umar, you have fulfilled justice, and at the same time you have done that which is right. You have not took away the rights of the people. In fact, you gave more than you took. Now, if you look at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in another narration, now it says that the people of Banu Nadir, which were the Jewish tribe of Banu Nadir, they conspired against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah is talking about their conspiracy plan that they had against Rasulullah with Abdullah ibn Ubay. And Abdullah ibn Ubay, Ra'sul Munafiqeen, known to be the head of the hypocrites, he was put in the middle of fire. Like basically, he was put on a hot seat, and on the hot seat, he was left with no choice but to literally ally with these people and act against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Rasulullah unveiled every single plan of theirs. And from among the treaty that they had between them and the Muslims was to safeguard the backs of one another. If one of them is attacked, they would fight together, and if the other goes through the same experience, they have to have their backs rather than turning against them. And what do? Besides them turning their backs against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and breaching the treaty that they had, they even decide to go further than that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals the verses related to the allyship that they had, the hypocrites and also Banu Nadir as a tribe that they had together in order to destroy Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, instead of Rasulullah destroying the hypocrites first, he says that because we had a treaty between us and them, and they do not acknowledge Islam to be a part of their religion, they take Judaism to be their path. So that means we need to form a treaty, and also there has to be a formalization in between, some formalities in order for us to coexist. Like for the hypocrites, what did they do? They manifested their Islam, whereas inside them they held their disbelief. So the Rasulullah cannot really deal with these ones first, because when Umar ibn Khattab, he told Rasulullah, let me literally strike his neck and do away with Abdullah ibn Ubay, Rasulullah told him, no, don't do that, so that people tomorrow don't come to claim that Rasulullah used to murder his own people. As long as Abdullah, he was manifesting Islam, Rasulullah let him be. Trust me on that. Rasulullah let him be. And out of the love that Rasulullah had, even on his death, after he passed away, Rasulullah wanted to do Salatul Janazah upon him. Umar ibn Khattab will hold him back and pull him back and tell him, Ya Rasulullah, don't do that. And then Rasulullah will tell him, Ilayka anni ya Umar. You have to let go of me. Take your part. Don't do this to me. Until Allah reveals verses, وَلَا تُصَلِّ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ مَاتَ أَبَدًا وَلَا تَقُمْ عَلَىٰ قَبْرِهِ. This was hypocrisy. But the hypocrites becoming allies with Rasul, with the Jews at the time, that wasn't a very smart move. And what happened is that Rasulullah now had to do ijla, which is expelling them from their homes and telling them to take different lands to be their abodes rather than Medina. Because remember this, militarily, you got to understand, when you are facing a threat already, especially from the Meccans, and Ghazwat Bani Nadir was said, according to history, it came after the Battle of Uhud. Now remember, the Battle of Uhud was a battle that the Sahabas, they suffered a huge blow. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, being their leader, he suffered the most. And notice this, knowing that they have suffered, and Rasulullah returns back to Medina and he does not have the upper hand at the time, and the Jews of Banu Nadir, this tribe, they were willing to attack Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was an internal threat, let alone knowing that they have an external threat, which were the Meccans, but now they have to face an internal threat. That's not how it works. It's, for example, when you know you have an external enemy in a state, whereas on top of that you end up finding out all of a sudden that you have an internal one. Which one do you fight first? Which one do you get rid of first? You don't get rid of the external one. In fact, you fight you fight those who are within. If you look at the Muslim Ummah today, the strategy Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received from Allah, you notice that it's always going to be the same strategy that man has to use. The Ummah today is destroyed by the people that we know they are the enemies of this religion, and they are within. They might proclaim Islam, and they manifest Islam, but within their hearts, nothing of Islam is embedded in their system. They are not serving Islam, they are serving themselves. Now, when you look at the previous Jews, although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about means of da'wah, and also He spoke about the power of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the power that He has Himself in the previous Jews, Surah Al-Qaf and also Surah Al-Fath, far and beyond that. You look at Surah Al-Rahman, Surah Al-Waqi'ah, Surah Al-Hadid, when Allah talks about His strength that He has, far and beyond, we're still dealing with the hearts. As we said, the following ajzat that we have is all about preparing the heart for the hereafter, and to live this life in according to the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if you look at this juz that we have in hand, mainly is talking about the issues that were related to Medina, the Medinan community. What were the struggles that they were going through, and what was the fruition that appeared in Medina as a result of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam strategies that he took. Now, after the big blow that they suffered from the Battle of Uhud, you notice that they had another battle within, an internal conflict, which was between them and the Jewish tribe of Banu Nadir, with the hypocrites that became allies with them. But far and beyond, when the ally of Banu Nadir found out that they did not have the upper hand, they tried to back Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with their hypocrisy, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Rasulullah the ability to do away with the treacherous tribe that existed at the time. But before that, if you come behind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the issue of dhihar. What is dhihar? Dhihar in fiqh terms is known to be a type of divorce that the Arabs used to practice when they would tell their wives, you are similar to my mother, or you are similar to my sister, or you are similar to my daughter, and etc. Why would they use these terms or these examples? They would use these examples using the type of women whom they are haram for them to marry ala al-abad. Eternally they will be haram. They cannot marry them. You have to bear that in mind. And when they do this, it means that those women that are their wives, they are not halal for them anymore. And when this happens, a man is left with two choices. You either marry the lady or you divorce her. Or if you don't do the two, the entire marriage will be nullified immediately. That structure would not exist anymore. And a woman came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to complain about her husband that would constantly say this, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received verses from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guiding him through that. And what will lead a man to do all that is because perhaps he might be anger, or maybe because of their own ignorance, and they will keep on saying this, thinking that they are okay with it, whereas that's not okay. And as you know, it was a practice of the Arabs to show that they have divorced their wives, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to ban this, and this was a banishment to show them that you should not do this at all, because it's haram. You cannot make your wife resemble your mother. It doesn't work that way. How can your mother and your wife be similar? Your wife is your wife and your mother is your mother. Your daughter is your daughter and your wife is your wife. And your sister is your sister, and it cannot be similar to your wife. There are relations that you have with your wife which cannot be similar to that which you have with your own kin and blood. It doesn't work that way. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received these verses to show them, look, if you feel you're hurt inside, or maybe you have some anger, all you have to do is do the right thing. You don't want to be with her, divorce her. You want to be with her, deal with your issues rather than saying what you're saying. That's how it works. And far and beyond, when you look at the other ajza that we have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now talks about something utterly important, and that is what? knowledge. And he does not talk about people attaining so much knowledge in this case. He talks about knowledge that gives the tazkiyatun nafs, knowledge that purifies the soul, knowledge that provides wisdom of the mind, knowledge that literally guides. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم. Number one, آياته ويزكيهم. Number two, ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. Now, if you look at this verse and you look at the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam, isn't it Ibrahim alayhi salam that he asked Allah, Ya Allah, from my progeny that will bring later, Ya Allah, please do provide them وَبَعَثْ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا, send upon them from among them a Rasul min أنفسهم يتلو عليهم آياتك. He will be the one to do what? To recite your verses to them. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, and he will teach them the book and wisdom on top of that. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, and then he will do what? He will purify them. But then when the dua was accepted, the dua of Ibrahim, Allah did not provide it in that order. Allah kind of switched things around. First of all, Allah said that the verses will be recited upon them. And then on top of that, Allah will purify them. And then Allah will provide them knowledge. What does that mean? Ibrahim said, Ya Allah, send a messenger to them that will recite your verses to them, that which will provide them knowledge of the book and wisdom, and then that will be a means for their purification. But Allah said, no. Verses will be recited first, purification will come next, and then knowledge will follow. Why was the order kind of switched around? There's a reason. اعلم هذا. Every single word that is provided in the Quran is in the right order, the right structure, and you cannot change that fact. And when Allah provides it in that manner, then remember this, there's a reason why Allah did so. And when you look at these verses, why Allah said so is because first of all, the book will be recited, the verses of Allah, Al-Quranul Kareem. And through the book, they would seek purification, divine guidance. That's how you seek purity. You cannot be purified if you don't follow divine guidance. Isn't it Allah the one that tells us and prohibits us from zina? Isn't it Allah that prohibits us from eating pork? Isn't it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibits us from becoming careless? And far and beyond, أليس كذلك? Then after that, when you understand and you purify the heart and connect to Allah directly 100%, and you know that Allah is your priority, then you seek knowledge on how you should serve Allah, how you can worship Allah correctly. And when you use the book, that is the book that has been recited, the book shows you how you can attain wisdom, and through the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also through the scholars, we learn how to be wise enough. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those people. Now when Allah said this in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, we're still talking about knowledge, remember, He was not just talking about purification of mankind alone, but he was talking about purification of the heart. The heart is the one that needs to be what? Purified. And once it's purified, it becomes a vessel that has the capability of receiving knowledge. But not every type of knowledge. Knowledge that which is beneficial, which draws you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the Ahlul Kitab, which He was providing basically, the Jews that existed in Medina at the time, they were known to be the Ahbar, the people of the ink. Why so? It's because they had too much knowledge, lakin their knowledge did not really benefit them so much. مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ حُمِّلُوا التَّوْرَاةِ, those who were given the responsibility to carry the Torah, كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا, they were the example of a donkey that literally was carrying what? Was carrying packages and packages upon them, and carts upon carts of knowledge, but that knowledge did not benefit them. بِئْسَ مَثَلُ الْقَوْمِ الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ. How could it benefit them whereas they were conspiring against Rasulullah? How could it benefit them whereas they had animosity against Rasulullah? How would it be of use and it would become a fruition for them if they were the same people that wanted to attack the entire Medina and annihilate the Muslims within? Whereas they already had a treaty formalized in order to do what? To allow them to live in harmony and coexist with peace. But they were ready to breach it, and as a matter of fact, they did breach it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was revealing these verses to show Ya Rasulullah, look, this is a matter of the heart. If the heart is not purified, if the heart is not guided, if the heart is not gonna take the right path, this is the result of of an unguided heart, the result of a darkened heart, and is exactly what you see from from the Jews of Banu Nadir and the hypocrites, how they existed. But later on, after Allah talking about this, He immediately talks about the hypocrites themselves. Hence, He revealed an entire surah. The hypocrites, they always feared that Allah perhaps might reveal a surah against them, which refers to them. And Allah knew that the believers might not be able to even acknowledge, to even spot them out, or maybe clock them in regards to how they were. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did, He exposed them, what they contained in their hearts. When you look at them, you will think that perhaps they are on your side. Whereas when they turn away from you, they manifest their kufr and hatred in their hearts. And that is the greatest of enmity that you could have against a brother. When you literally present a different face, a good one, but behind them you talk evil, you backbite them against them, and you literally are willing to harm them as much as you could. Whereas what is basically, in our terms, in my mother tongue, what do you say? It's like a snake that literally bites you and sits aside, and they are very calm and cold. That's how they are. They bite you and you don't even see them. They bite you and you don't even see them. It's like the invisible stick of a person that literally strikes you, and then you don't even see that stick anymore. And hypocrisy was the same. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to expose them. And when He was exposing them, He exposed them because of one reason. The reason why they are like that is because in their hearts they favored the life of this world and their children with their wealth and everything that it contained, other than the life of the hereafter. That's what led them to become the way they were. And the tribes that existed within Medina, who had they were planning to annihilate Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and also do away with the Muslims and harm them. They favored the life of this world more than the hereafter. They forgot that one day they will stand in front of Ahkamul Hakimin, the ruler of rulers, the judge of judges, and the king of kings, and they will be questioned. They forgot about that, and they decided to embrace what their hearts desired, and they moved on with that. Later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still talks about the structure of Medina in terms of talaq, in terms of nikah, and also about the two wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they came up with different plans in order to stand on their feet on something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed them that they were wrong, they were not supposed to do that, and Allah gave them an example. But if you look at these examples that were provided in regards to the structure of Medina and far and beyond, the main thing that you learn is this. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about how to provide da'wah, to guide people to the right path, He was talking about how you have to maintain a heart in order for that heart to be on the right path. He was literally talking about the categories of people. You'll find that there are others that the more you give them da'wah, they follow and they spiritually become connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the Sahabas. But on the other hand, you find that there are people, no matter how much da'wah you give them, they will either hold on to their enmity or they will fall into more disbelief. That's what would happen. Hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to expose the heart of the hypocrites with the enemies. Because when the enemies were conspiring and planning and plotting against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that was just a manifestation of their hatred. And even though they were doing this behind Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah was showing them that which you are hiding, I would unveil it in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he will be able to see exactly what you are holding within yourselves, that how harmful you are to the entire ummah. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was showing exactly about talaq, about nikah and all of that, a family union is not built by the actions. A family union is built by the containing of the heart. And on top of that, the contentment of the heart. If contentment in a family is missing and the hearts are not contained, basically you don't contain your heart when you're angry, you don't contain your heart when you're sad, you don't contain your heart when you are afflicted, you are going to ruin a family completely. Just like the man who would always tell his wife, Antika dhahri ummi, you are similar to my mother. That is only a manifestation of what the heart contains. And this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to address it. Hence you find that throughout, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was mentioning this, He would mention the entire juz for two reasons. Yes, the manifestation of the heart, but another reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to talk about is that how can you maintain a society? A society would only be maintained by the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And taqwa of Allah is only maintained in the heart. And Allah found that this juz has to be in this on the 28th part, to be the 28th juz on this part of the Quran, so that we can be reminded also that this is how you maintain a nation. This is how you maintain a relation. This is how you maintain the structure of an entire state. Because if a state does not understand these fundamentals, then the rest will be lost. And the fundamentals are understanding how to nurture the hearts of the ummah so that they can be of obedient ones. And on top of that, to differentiate between the enemies and also the friends, to differentiate between the friends and the foes, and who to embrace and who not to, who to keep and who to strike away and expel. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it completely manifest over here, and it was very easy for us to see exactly how Medina was structured and how da'wah was maintained, and on top of that, what type of elements that are required in order to maintain the strength of a people. So you can see clearly what we have to live with over here is understand that that which we conceal in our hearts of hatred, Allah will make it manifest through our own actions. One day we'll slip. Just like Abdullah, when he slipped, rather than saying Medina, he said Yathrib. And on top of that, if we are a good people that have good hearts, genuine hearts, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will ensure that He makes it manifest itself through our limbs and our action and far and beyond. If we are righteous, Allah will not make us slip to do that which is wrong. In fact, He would allow us to hold on to the ties which are necessary. And may Allah make us of those people that have our families intact. And as we are reaching to the end of Ramadan, perhaps today the 27th day for you, and it might be the 28th day, Allahu A'lam. Lakin as you are watching this, I ask Allah to strengthen the family ties for you. And if you are not married, may Allah grant you a spouse. And if you are married, may Allah strengthen your family. And if you're a person that's seeking guidance, may Allah show you the guidance. And if you're a person that Allah has shown you the path, may He allow you to have steadfastness on the path. And most importantly, don't forget to purify the soul, because the purpose of Ramadan is attaining taqwa, sah. But attaining that taqwa does not happen on its own. Attaining the taqwa is purifying the soul constantly with the remembrance of Allah, and also understanding that one day we're going to pass away. Not like the hypocrites. The hypocrites, they embraced this world because they loved this world and prioritized it more than the hereafter, as they forgot that one day they will meet the ultimate Lord, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah guide us all. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.